Greetings and welcome to the Dr. J Vlog Series. It's Sunday, September 7th, 2025, and on Sundays we talk about the purpose and meaning of life. So I was asking my wife yesterday, what should be the theme of the Dr. J Vlog Series this week? Without hesitating, she said flowers. Who doesn't love flowers? But that wasn't a flippant response either, because flowers not only appeal to us for aesthetic reasons, but for spiritual and scientific reasons as well. In other words, there's much more to the generic flower than meets the eye. Indeed, why do flowers exist and display the incredible patterns that they do? So we'll be addressing the issue from multiple perspectives or angles with each of this week's daily vlogs. So we're going to start, though, back up a little bit, because for centuries, then human beings have debated not only the origins of the universe, but the order of the universe. In other words, why does the universe take on the form that it does and display these remarkably well-defined and consistent patterns? Again, metaphorically and literally, we see that with flowers as well. I'll get back to that in a moment. So Mario Livio proposed a variation of the question in the title of one of his books, Is God a Mathematician?, in which he investigates the Einsteinian conundrum. Remember, Einstein asked, how is it possible that mathematics, a product of human thought that is independent of experience, fits so exactly the objects of physical reality? Others have argued that whatever one might think of the concept of God, that God must be the ultimate geometer to have created a universe with such stunningly consistent spatial forms and patterns, and how these can be described so elegantly and comprehensively with mathematics. In fact, there's a book that came out just last year by Thomas McAvoy, I've not read it yet, called God the Geometer, in which McAvoy then uses science to argue that God created the universe using geometric and harmonic principles. So I'm going to have a look at that, and I'll be interested. I may be able to comment on that before this next couple of weeks are over as well. So in short, we arrive then at the confluence of this endlessly fascinating discussion of the intersection of faith and science, the spiritual and the empirical, and the quest for understanding in comparison with the quest for explanation. So I use the term understanding to refer to the broader philosophical and ontological question of why anything exists in the first place, including ourselves. And then I use the term explanation to refer to our accounts for why things move or behave as they do. So I'm not going to pretend that I have some special enlightenment here or some special answer that you've never heard. Rather, my aim here is to introduce some of the key ideas and stimulate your own thinking along these lines. I have a few conclusions that I'd like to share down the road, but very tentative and very modest. But there's just so much interesting material here that we're going to have to spend at least a couple of weeks discussing. So let's start with the flower of life and as the symbol of universal harmony. Are you familiar with the flower of life concept? I suspect many of you are. You've almost certainly come across examples at some point along the way. So basically, the flower of life is a geometric pattern that's composed of multiple evenly spaced overlapping circles arranged in a flower-like pattern with six-fold symmetry like a hexagon. So that's what you see on the screen there. The flower of life displays a perfect form, the proportion, etc., that's been known to philosophers and architects and artists all around the world. So people from cultures across the globe then believe that the flower of life symbolizes the fundamental blueprint of life in the universe and holds the key then to understanding the laws of existence. So there are groups of people then all over the world who derive their particular beliefs and forms of meditation based, at least in part, on the flower of life. So for example, some suggest that the flower of life represents the fundamental structure of the universe. That is, the interlocking circles in the symmetry are seen as embodying the interconnectedness of all things in creation, both seen and unseen. Another key belief suggests that the flower of life represents sacred geometry, something I'm going to be talking a fair bit about as well in the next couple of weeks. That is the patterns and shapes that are thought to reflect the deep underlying principles of the cosmos. These include things like the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. I've talked about these a little bit previously, several months ago, and fractal geometry, all of which can be found in nature and cosmological phenomena, and all of which we're going to be talking about at various points along the way this week and next. And then some argue, too, that the flower of life embodies the flow of energy, mirroring how matter and energy interact in the cosmos. So, again, science and spirituality then start to merge at the intersection of cosmology and the flower of life. So, for example, both cosmology and the flower of life emphasize the presence of order and symmetry in the universe. In cosmology, of course, this is seen in the regularities of cosmic structures, the arrangement of the galaxies and the stars, and cosmic background radiation, among other examples, all of which follow predictable patterns based on our understanding of the laws of physics, at least. And then in the flower of life, the geometric patterns represent the perfect harmony and order of the universe as well, symbolically. So the symmetry then found in the flower of life can be seen as a kind of microcosmic reflection of the macrocosmic order that governs the universe, suggesting that the same principles of symmetry that shape the cosmos also shape life at every scale. In addition, sacred geometry, which again includes the flower of life, is often thought to be the foundational pattern underlying all of creation. Some theorists propose that the geometric principles that are encoded in sacred geometry are embedded in the very fabric of the cosmos, as with the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. So again, we'll look at some of the evidence in that regard this week. In both cosmology and the flower of life, there's this deep sense of interconnectedness. And the flower of life, with its repeating patterns of overlapping circles, can be seen then as kind of a metaphor for the way in which all parts of the universe seem to be interconnected. And just as each circle is connected to the others, every part of the universe may be interconnected at a deeper level, whether through the fabric of space-time or quantum fields. And there's an evolutionary component too. Cosmology attempts to describe and explain the universe's evolution from the Big Bang to the formation of galaxies, stars, and planets. Similarly, the flower of life can be interpreted as a representation of creation and evolution, with each circle representing a stage in the unfolding of the universe. And it just depends on your perspective. And the flower of life then offers kind of a metaphysical lens through which you can begin to perceive the underlying sacredness and connectedness of all existence. Okay, so all of which is to say then that the intersection of cosmology and the flower of life invites this kind of deeper philosophical and spiritual inquiry into the nature of reality. And both suggest that the cosmos is not some kind of chaotic, random series of events, but rather both are imbued with a deep set of harmonious principles that connect all things. And we'll be exploring all of this in much greater detail in the next couple of weeks. All right, so in the meantime, may you and yours continue to create peace in your lives, nurture love in your hearts, and dole out hugs in abundance. And hope to see you every day for the next couple of weeks, because this is going to be quite a fascinating ride indeed. Take care.